have your permission to commence the proceedings of the seminar, sir? Thank you, sir. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Vice Admiral HCS Bisht, Flag Officer Commanding-in-Chief, Eastern Naval Command, I, Lieutenant Commander Suraj Ayappa, would like to extend a very warm welcome to the august audience for the Eastern Naval Command Golden Jubilee Seminar 2017. This seminar is one of the major events being organized as part of the Swarn Varsh celebrations of the Eastern Naval Command. May I request Admiral Sunil Lanba, the Chief of the Naval Staff, Admiral R.K. Dhowan, former Chief of the Naval Staff and Chairman, National Maritime Foundation, and Vice Admiral HCS Bisht, Flag Officer Commanding-in-Chief, Eastern Naval Command, to kindly come on stage and take their seats. May I request the Flag Officer Commanding-in-Chief, Eastern Naval Command, to kindly deliver the welcome address.
Admirals Sunil Lanba, Chief of the Naval Staff and Chairman, Chiefs of Staff Committee, Admiral R.K. Dhowan, Chairman, National Maritime Foundation and former CNS, Admiral Arun Prakash, former CNS, former Commanders-in-Chief of the Eastern Naval Command, Director NMF, eminent speakers and subject matter experts, flag officers and senior officers from the Navy, Army and the Coast Guard, civilian officers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to all of you. It is indeed a distinct privilege and honor for me on behalf of the Eastern Naval Command to extend a very warm welcome to each one of you to this NMF and ENC Golden Jubilee Seminar. As you are aware, we are celebrating the Golden Jubilee or the Swarn Varsh of the Eastern Naval Command from 1st April 17 to 1st March 2018. This seminar, organized as a part of the celebrations in partnership with the National Maritime Foundation, is an endeavor to foster maritime thought and awareness amongst us. As you may be aware, the Eastern Naval Command is unique in terms of having the largest geographical spread amongst all commands of the Indian Armed Forces. Over the decades, the command has evolved into a truly potent naval entity comprising state-of-the-art ships, submarines and aircraft. Our operational assets are supported by a versatile dockyard and various other units spread across our east coast, all functioning in tandem to further India's maritime security. In the last few years, the Eastern Naval Command has witnessed numerous milestone events. As regards platform inductions, the 3 Shivalik-class stealth frigates were inducted commencing 2010, the nuclear submarine Chakra in 2012, maritime patrol aircraft P-8Is in 2013, the advanced jet trainers Hawks in 2013, and the naval offshore patrol vessels NOPVs, namely Sumedha and Sumitra, along with the first ASW corvette Kamorta in 2014. Our latest addition, the second of the Kamorta class, INS Kadmat, was commissioned in January 16, and with the third ship of the class, INS Kiltan, joining us next month. The recent past also saw us bid adieu to the Tu-142M's long-range maritime patrol aircraft, fondly called the Albatross, with the LRMR baton being handed over to the P8Is on 28 March 17. The TUs had rendered 29 years of yeoman service to the Navy, flying an accident-free 30,000 hours as a long-range surveillance backbone. The P8Is are, however, more than equal for the task at hand in the future. It may be of interest to you that in order to showcase the legacy of the Tu-142M to the general public, a TU aircraft museum is being created adjacent to the Kursula Museum on the beach road of Visakhapatnam, with the tagline of the hunter and the hunted, proudly displaying the magnificence of what can be called a first of its kind in the world. There have also been some challenging times for the command, most notably when Cyclone Hudhud devastated the city on 12th October 2014. However, in a little over 1 year post-Hudhud, the naval establishment, along with the city of Vizag, under the leadership of Admiral Soni, the former Commander-in-Chief, bounced back with commendable vigor and played host to India's biggest maritime event on the eastern seaboard, the International Fleet Review, IFR, in February 16. We had representatives from over 50 countries and participation of 94 ships, including 24 foreign naval ships and 90 aircraft in IFR 16, which was one of the largest naval events held in Asia. And the architects of this grand event, Admiral Dhowan, then the CNS, and Admiral Soni, then CNC, are both amongst us present here today. The Eastern Fleet has been engaging with both regional and extra-regional navies in a cooperative and mutually beneficial manner. These interactions aim to underscore India's peaceful presence and solidarity with friendly countries in the maritime domain. One of our ships, INS Satpura, last year undertook an OSD to Marshall Islands and Federated Republic of Micronesia post the Rim of the Pacific exercise held at Hawaii. We also had INS Sumitra undertake an overseas deployment to New Zealand for participation in the International Maritime Review in Auckland in November 16. We recently conducted Malabar 2017 in the Bay of Bengal, wherein the navies of India, US and Japan participated. A total of 16 warships, 2 submarines and over 95 aircraft of the 3 navies undertook a series of harbor and sea exercises to strengthen interoperability and exchange of best practices. This exercise also included participation by Vikramaditya, as also the P-8A from the US Navy for the first time. The ships of the Eastern Fleet during the overseas deployment this year made port calls at Singapore, Kuantan, Jakarta, Surabaya, Port Moresby in Papua New Guinea, and Fremantle, Australia. These ships also participated in the second edition of Australia-India exercise, or AUSINDEX 17, and also participated in the International Maritime Review at Singapore as part of Republic of Singapore Navy's 50th anniversary celebrations. Whether it was our own flood-hit regions of Chennai or Odisha, or our maritime neighbors in need, that is Sri Lanka, Bangladesh or Myanmar, the Eastern Naval Command has, as usual, proactively provided HADR, humanitarian assistance and disaster relief this year, where required. On the aspect of coastal security, the Eastern Naval Command, in conjunction with the newly created setup of Coast Guard Commander Eastern Seaboard, has been undertaking coastal security patrols and exercises on the East Coast regularly. Ladies and gentlemen, the Indo-Pacific, though an arena of both cooperation and competition, is also seeing a surge of volatility. The US pivot to Asia, which is indicative of shifting US interests, China's aggressiveness, India's quest to regain its rightful place in the Committee of Nations, and the many frictions in the Indo-Pacific maritime arena portend challenging times ahead. An example of this uncertain maritime environment is the North Korea-US-China imbroglio, which may directly impinge on peace and stability in the region. On similar lines, the Doklam standoff could translate into China taking a belligerent posture in the IOR. As the principal instrument of India's maritime power in the East, the Eastern Naval Command would be a flag bearer of India's maritime initiatives in the Indo-Pacific region to address these issues of maritime security. It is therefore essential that we mull over these issues and generate a roadmap for our future engagement in this region. I am sure that this seminar titled National Maritime Power, Concepts, Constituents and Catalysts would address some of our concerns in the maritime environment and would encourage us to don the thinking caps. It would also in some measure provide inputs towards shaping our policy and industry and becoming a stronger maritime nation. I look forward to a vigorous and engaging exchange of views over the next 2 days of this seminar. To conclude, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank all of you once again for your esteemed presence and for joining us to celebrate a Golden Jubilee in this befitting and professional manner. I must in particular thank Admiral Arun Prakash for so readily accepting to chair session 1 at a very short notice. Thank you all and Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, the inaugural address for the seminar would be delivered by Admiral R.K. Dhowan, former Chief of the Naval Staff and Chairman, National Maritime Foundation. Admiral R.K. Dhowan is an alumnus of the National Defence Academy, the Defence Services Staff College, and the Naval War College, Newport, Rhode Island, USA. He was commissioned in the Navy in January 1975. His illustrious career began with being adjudged the best cadet and winning the coveted telescope during his sea training on board INS Delhi. The Admiral has commanded 3 frontline warships, Khukri, Ranjit and Delhi. He also had the proud privilege of commanding the Eastern Fleet. Besides serving as the Naval Advisor at the High Commission of India, London, he has also served as the Chief Staff Officer, Operations of the Western Naval Command and the Chief of Staff at Headquarters, Eastern Naval Command. Subsequently, he took over as the Commandant of the National Defence Academy. The Admiral assumed charge as the Vice Chief of the Naval Staff in August 2011 and took over as the 22nd Chief of the Naval Staff in April 2014. He retired in May 2016 and took over as the 5th Chairman of the National Maritime Foundation in November 2016. May I now request the Admiral to kindly deliver the inaugural address.
Admiral Sunil Lanba, Chief of the Naval Staff and Chairman Chiefs of Staffs Committee, Admiral Arun Prakash, former Chief of the Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Bisht, Flag Officer Commanding in Chief, East Naval Command, former Commanders in Chiefs, the Director, National Maritime Foundation, distinguished guests, Flag Officers, Commanding Officers, esteemed participants, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a distinct honor for me to be present here today for the Golden Jubilee Seminar organized by the Eastern Naval Command in partnership with the National Maritime Foundation. As I stand before you, it certainly brings back many nostalgic memories. INS Sarkars, the premier establishment in Eastern Naval Command, was commissioned on 12th of December 1939. 50 years later, in 1989, I had the privilege to be present here for the Swarn Varsh celebrations and to attend the Golden Jubilee Seminar on the subject of India's maritime strategy. 28 years later, it is with a feeling of deja vu that I am present here once again for the Golden Jubilee celebrations, this time on the occasion of 50 glorious years of the Eastern Naval Command and the subject of national maritime power, concept, constituents and catalysts. So much has changed in the last 8 years in India's strengths as a maritime nation and the capabilities of the Indian Navy as the primary instrument of India's maritime power. India today is a vibrant maritime nation with a natural outflow towards the seas, and the country occupies a dominant position as it sits astride busy sea lines of communication which transit across the Indian Ocean. We have a long coastline of 7,516 kilometers, an exclusive economic zone of over 2 million square kilometers. 95% of our trade by volume, 72% by value, transits by sea, and this accounts for nearly 50% of the country's GDP. If we have a look at the basic ingredients of maritime power or sea power, as described by Mahan, they comprise geographical position, physical conformity, extent of territory, numbers of people, the national character and policies of the government. India has all the constituents of a maritime power and much more. In recent years, under the leadership of our Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi, there have been a series of initiatives and developments in the maritime domain and an awareness of India as a maritime nation. Our Honorable Prime Minister has also linked the blue chakra on our national flag with our blue economy. Our vast maritime interests are enablers of our blue economy, and I would like to highlight some of the maritime sectors which are likely to witness significant growth in the coming years. India has 12 major ports and over 200 minor and intermediate ports with a cargo handling capacity of 1,400 million metric tons per annum, which is likely to increase to 2,500 million metric tons per annum over the next 10 years. The government has launched the ambitious Sagarmala project, which is a port-led development initiative based on 4 pillars of port modernization, connectivity, port-led industrialization, and coastal community development. Sagarmala actually comprises about 150 projects with an envisaged investment of 60 to 70 billion US dollars. The aim is to provide connectivity between the major and minor ports to the hinterland via road and rail connectivity and development of inland waterways. India has approximately 14,500 kilometers of navigable inland waterways, of which in the first phase 4,500 are being developed as 5 major national waterways. The shipping sector and the mercantile sector are also slated to see growth. Currently we have 1,174 Indian flag merchant ships totaling to about 22 million GRT. And while 90% of our trade transits by sea, only 10% is carried in Indian bottoms. The government has given incentives to Indian registered shipping to increase the tonnage of Indian controlled shipping. We have a thriving shipbuilding industry with 27 shipyards, and the government has given a boost to the shipbuilding sector by according it the special infrastructure status and also permitting 100% foreign direct investment into shipbuilding. Another area I would like to specifically mention is that of warship building in India. As we are all aware, for over 50 years, our naval designers have been designing and our indigenous shipyards have been building ships for the Indian Navy, resulting in our transformation from a buyer's navy to a builder's navy. Today, it's a matter of great pride that all the 40 ships and submarines under construction for the Indian Navy are being built in Indian shipyards, both public and private. The blueprint for the future Indian Navy is firmly anchored on self-reliance and indigenization, and the government has accorded acceptance of necessity for additional 60 ships and submarines to be built in India. It should be our endeavor to progressively increase the indigenous content, particularly in the fight component for state-of-the-art weapons and sensors, so that future warships and submarines can be 100% made in India. India has about 1,300 islands and islets as part of the Andaman Nicobar Group, the Lakshadweep Group, and islands off the west and east coast of India. The government has prepared a comprehensive island development plan, taking into account aspects of security, economic sustenance, environment preservation, social and cultural sustenance. This will enable setting up of greenfield infrastructure projects and also provide a boost to marine-based cruise tourism. The other sectors in the maritime domain which will see growth include deep-sea fishing, offshore oil and gas exploration, deep seabed mining, and renewable sources of ocean energy such as tidal energy, wave energy, and ocean thermal energy conversion. It can therefore be seen that there are many opportunities for economic development of our maritime interests, but the challenge will be to ensure that these are greenfield projects with a zero carbon footprint. Harnessing the blue economy has emerged as a new paradigm which calls for optimal utilization of resources with minimum impact on the environment and ensuring sustained development of the oceans. The Indian Ocean has emerged as the global economic highway over which 100,000 ships transit every year, carrying 66% of the world's oil, 50% of the world's container traffic, 50% of the world's cargo traffic. We also have the ocean as the third largest water body, spanning an area of 68.5 million square kilometers, and countries on the rim of the Indian Ocean are home to nearly 1/3 of humanity. The threats and challenges on the waters of the Indian Ocean are as wide and varied as they come. Who could have imagined that in the 21st century we would once again be grappling with pirates, or that the major threat in the maritime domain would be from asymmetric warfare and maritime terrorism? But that is the reality today, and the other challenges include arms trafficking, drug smuggling, human trafficking, and poaching. The waters of the Indian Ocean are also prone to natural disasters, and our Coast Guard and the Navy have to be ready for rapid response for humanitarian assistance and disaster relief. China has displayed an aggressive posture in the South China Sea, and the enhanced deployment of the PLA Navy in the waters of the Indian Ocean needs to be closely monitored. The instabilities and turbulence on land in some parts of the Indian Ocean has the potential to spill over into the maritime domain, and the situation can best be described as fragile. Consequently, over 120 warships from 20 navies are always present in the Indian Ocean to safeguard their maritime interests. The primary instrument of India's maritime military power, the Indian Navy, has emerged as a multi-dimensional network force which is ready to take on any challenge on the waters of the Indian Ocean and beyond. The Indian Navy published its revised maritime security strategy titled Ensuring Secure Seas in 2015. This strategy actually comprises 5 constituent strategies: strategy for deterrence, strategy for conflict, strategy for shaping a favorable and positive maritime environment, strategy for coastal and offshore security, and strategy for maritime force and capability development. The growth of the Indian Navy has been outlined in the Maritime Capability Perspective Plan, and it should be our endeavor to ensure the development of our Navy in accordance with the plan, with induction of future aircraft carriers, destroyers, frigates, submarines, both nuclear and conventional, to meet the tasks of sea control and deep sea denial. Naval aviation is on the threshold of transformation, with planned induction of fighter aircraft, reconnaissance aircraft, helicopters, and UAVs. It should be our endeavor to induct cutting edge of technology so that we can transform our Navy from a network Navy to a network-centric Navy of the future. To meet the constabulary role, the Indian Navy ensures coastal and offshore security in coordination with the Coast Guard and other state and central agencies operating in the maritime domain. In recent years, we have leveraged technology to set up the NC3I network and the IMAC for enhanced maritime domain awareness. To meet the diplomatic role, the Indian Navy has extended its operational footprint as far east as Vladivostok, as far west as the waters of Eastern Atlantic, and as far south as Australia. We engage with the other navies for exercises and also for capacity building and capability enhancement initiatives and information exchange to enhance the maritime domain awareness. The aim is to shape a favorable maritime environment and promote avenues of cooperation among navies. In 2008, the Indian Navy took a unique initiative of the Indian Ocean Naval Symposium as a maritime construct to manage the maritime affairs of the countries of the region. To further promote cooperation among navies of the world, the Indian Navy conducted the International Fleet Review at Visakhapatnam in February 2016. 50 navies of the world came together to strengthen bridges of friendship, and the underlying theme of the Fleet Review was that we may be separated by geography, but we are certainly united through oceans. Speaking at the International Fleet Review, the Honorable Prime Minister reiterated his vision for the Indian Ocean as Sagar, which stands for security and growth for all in the region. The recent initiatives by the government and the Indian Navy will act as catalysts to further strengthen India's maritime power and ensure maritime security for national prosperity. It actually appears that India has once again turned towards the seas and is destined to emerge as a resurgent maritime nation. The seas around us are gaining newfound importance as each day goes by because of their linkages with the blue economy. And I have no doubt that the current century is the century of the seas. If India is to emerge as a credible maritime power, all aspects of our maritime interests need to grow. The responsibility for protecting these maritime interests falls squarely on the shoulders of men in white uniform, because it is the responsibility of the Navy and the Coast Guard to ensure that our maritime interests, which have a vital relationship with the nation's economic growth, are allowed to develop unhindered both in peace and war. I am sure that the deliberations and discussions during the conference will throw up some suggestions to further strengthen our capabilities as a credible maritime power. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. May I now request our chief guest, Admiral Sunil Lanba, the Chief of the Naval Staff and Chairman, Chiefs of Staff Committee, to kindly deliver the keynote address.
Admiral Arun Prakash, former Chief of Naval Staff, Admiral R.K. Dhowan, former Chief of Naval Staff and Chairman, National Maritime Foundation, Admiral Bisht, Flag Officer Commander-in-Chief, Eastern Naval Command, former Commander-in-Chiefs of the Eastern Naval Command, Flag Officers, Commanding Officers, senior serving and retired officers from the Navy and the Coast Guard and from the Government of India, eminent speakers, distinguished personalities, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to all of you. It is indeed an honor for me to be here with all of you to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Eastern Naval Command. At the outset, I'd like to congratulate each and every member of the Eastern Naval Command, both past and present, who have toiled hard to make the Eastern Naval Command what it is today. Special appreciation is due to our predecessors who laid solid foundation for the command in the early years of its inception and made a strong statement of its capability in 1971, Operation for Liberation of Bangladesh. That was the first major maritime campaign of independent India on the eastern seaboard, and every sea warrior till date draws great inspiration from that campaign. Evolving rapidly over the years, the Eastern Naval Command today boasts of some of the best fighting platforms that the IN has. These include formidable ships, submarines and potent aircraft, and I am sanguine that the changing geostrategic scenario will continue to keep the Eastern Naval Command in sharp focus, not only promoting a maritime interest, but also as a deterrent to potential adversaries. I'd like to applaud the Command as well as the National Maritime Foundation for having chosen a very contemporary and apt theme for the seminar on maritime power to commemorate the momentous occasion. The glare of white uniform may at times wrongly lead a few of us to assume that a powerful navy is what a national maritime power is. I am confident that the theme selected for various sessions of the seminar will help amply convey a thorough understanding of the diverse colored contours of maritime power. Over the next few minutes, let me share some of my views on the key constituent of maritime power. In the broadest sense, maritime power is the sum total of several economic, political, and military factors that essentially contribute to the nation's ability to use the sea to its benefit. Whereas these benefits manifest in several forms, including safe and expeditious passage of trade and access to oceanic resources, it is a military component that ensures that our interests in the vast oceans are protected from seaborne threat. Among these myriad components of maritime power, I would like to view the maritime outlook of the people, the government, and the organs of the state as the most important component of maritime power. Though in the cognitive domain, this attribute of the people singularly reflects on the willingness of the nation to contribute towards other physical forms of maritime power. Geography dictates that India be a sea power central to the Indian Ocean. Our natural geography has endowed us with a long coastline, along with the Peninsula India, jutting out into the vast ocean and strategically located islands. It is not due to chance that India built up an enormous wealth in the Middle Ages. Its rich land gave its agricultural surplus, which could be traded through the seas with other deficit areas and nations, bringing wealth to the country, and we are one of the richest nations in the Middle Ages. The continental fixation of the originally Central Asian Mughal rulers led India to surrender its maritime heritage. It is this maritime heritage India has to understand if it is to become a regional power once again. One of the key ingredients of India to attain great power status is building the requisite maritime infrastructure, including a navy that can ensure that no other nation can operate in the Indian Ocean without India's acquiescence. Navies and indeed maritime power requires continued commitment and investment, and I must acknowledge that after a prolonged neglect of the seas for over 2 centuries, the nation has consciously turned back to the seas with renewed vigor. It is also evident in the articulation of intent at the highest level of the national leadership. Our unique geographical attributes are accentuated by several natural deep water ports. The true potential of these ports is set to unleash to the ambitious Sagarmala project, which envisages a port-led development through infrastructure augmentation of ports themselves and enhanced connectivity between these ports with the economically thriving hinterland. The Indian Ocean and the seas beyond offer immense economic potential. Abundant natural resources, a large fishing community, and fast-growing domestic economy have increased our dependence on the seas. As we explore the oceans to tap its numerous bounties, the thrust on blue economy would evolve sustainable models of exploitation of ocean resources while preserving the fragile ecosystem. Here I would like to highlight one grey area that may set us back in our pursuit of port-led economic progress, and that is our domestic shipbuilding capacity. The Indian flag merchant fleet at present makes up about 1%